Amen. Who knew the boy could sing? He's pretty good, isn't he? Well, now that Jack and Dalen got him saved, we're going to go through 3 things Christians need. We need to get another microphone now, I'm assuming. Right? Yeah, come on now. I'm on strict orders that this shouldn't take no longer than about 15 minutes, so yeah, I'm not that good. Faith, obedience, and love. That's 3 things Christians need. I've just got a few examples here. Hopefully this won't take too long. Maybe it will. I don't know. If you see Stephanie walk up to me, she left. So she's already informed me if you see her get up that she's heading out the door. Yeah, right. Sure you are. Faith. We all know the biblical definition for faith. It's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I looked it up in the dictionary, I think it was Webster's or Wikipedia or something like that. But it's complete trust or confidence in someone or something. That's pretty good. I like that. Some classic examples of faith is, we can go all the way back to the very beginning where Abraham, he's the father of faith. I was thinking about a story earlier when I was kind of reading through this again, and we've all been through stuff. We've all got things that we've been asked to do or told to do. And I'm telling you, ain't nothing anybody's ever faced harder than what Abraham did. I mean, if you have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When he was told to go offer his son for sacrifice, that's tough. That's tough. That trumps everything. I mean, that's tough. I mean, there's been people have this lost children. That's tough. But for them to die at your own hands, I mean, that's top of the line. That's as good as it gets. But I like what Abraham said before he ever went up. He said in Genesis 22:5, he said to the servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you." He said that before he ever left. He believed. He believed God would raise him from the dead, after the sacrifice, which in essence he did. He saved him from the sacrifice, but still yet, it was accredited to him as faith. And that is something that I struggle with personally, is the aspect of faith. I'm a very hands-on kind of guy. I like to see things. I like to see stuff happening, and when I can't, that's hard for me. That's as a person, but that's where faith comes in. Faith comes in where you can't see. That's just the very definition of it. It's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And there's faith going all throughout the Bible, and it's something that we absolutely have to have. Is it easy? It's not. It's easy for me to have faith for you. That's easy. It's easy for me to believe a promise for Brother Philip. That's easy. But when it comes into my camp, whenever I need the healing, or whenever I need the blessing or the finances to come through, whenever I see it, or whenever I need it, and I'm having trouble seeing it come through, that's when my faith gets weak. And that's hard. But isn't it so good whenever you can see it happen? That's rejoicing material right there. I was thinking also in Luke 10 where it's talking about the centurion. And he had a servant that was sick. And he went to Jesus. He said, I need you to heal, my servant's sick. And Jesus said, okay, well, I'll go to your house. And the centurion said, no, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy for you to have come to my house, but you just say the word. Say the word, and he'll be healed. And his faith, God is healing. Jesus told him, your faith has made your servant whole. And that's a bold statement. Sure, they lived in the time when they seen the miracles. They heard the miracles. Christ was performing miracles all over the place. The disciples were performing miracles. It was easy to see. We live in a time now that we don't see that hardly. The miraculous healings, we don't see that. Is it our lack of faith? Is it the country we live in? Sure, it's all that. I think we've kind of gotten away from it. I was talking to I use this company man a lot that I used to be in the oil field, and every morning before we would get started, we would have like this little kind of devotional or whatever. And he said he was talking to an evangelist that came over from, I forget where it was at, and he was talking about healing. And he said, he was talking about healings and things, and he asked him, and he said, well, do you see healings here? And he's like, well, not really. He said, well, we don't see many healings. And he's like, why? He said, don't you have any faith? He's like, well, yeah, we have faith. And he's like, no, if you're not seeing healings. He's like, well, and it kind of offended him a little bit, you know. And he said, well, why do you say that? He said, where I come from, he said, we don't have doctors. He said, we have to trust God. You know, now I'm not saying that if you go to the doctor that you don't trust God. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just using that as an example. I was using that as an example that Christ is the same today as he was then. And, you know, faith is something that I struggle with personally. I'll just be right here honest with you. Something I struggle with. Like I said a minute ago, faith for Brother Philip, I've got piles and piles of that. But that doesn't get me through. You know, that doesn't help me. You know, that doesn't help me. And it's something that I need to pray about. It's something we all need to pray about. We all need stronger faith. And that's just a fact. But faith is something that we're all dealt. We all have a measure of faith or we wouldn't be here anyway. You know, we all have that measure of faith that Christ is real, and then he died, and then he was risen. You know, we all have that measure of faith, but I think the faith that I'm talking about is a different kind of faith. You know, it's the faith that'll get you through. And it's something that, you know, we all have stuff. Everybody's got stuff. You know, I heard a man say one time that if we all took all of our problems and put them all out in a pile in the middle of the room, chances are you'd probably get your problems back out because you don't want somebody else's problems. You know, each set of problems is kind of custom made for each person, you know. And what I like about it is the Lord won't put any more on you than what you can bear. And I like that. That's a promise. I'm not saying he won't get you where you bent almost all the way to the point of breaking, because I've been there. But he's never let me break. There's been times I thought I did. There's been times I thought I did. And I kind of take back and think about Job for a second. Man had everything. The man had everything and lost it all. All but his wife. Lost a bit of it. Never blamed the charge on God, though. And that's what I like. So I think we can so easily blame God for a lot of different things when it's in fact that, you know, sure, God allows it to happen. But if we could see the end result of where we're at, I think it would make what we're going through right now a lot easier, you know. But then that's where faith comes in. You know, that's where you got to have the faith to get through. And, you know, we're all families here. You know, everybody's got a family here. That's what families are for. You know, families get you through. You know, I can think of countless times where, you know, my family has gotten me through. And that's good. You know, that's excellent. Moving on, outside of faith, once you have faith, you have to have obedience. You know, obedience is a very critical part of this Christian walk. You have to have it. You know, we can go through and we can look at obedience and we can think of, we can go back to Adam. You know, that's where the disobedience started. You know, it started with Adam. And what I like about obedience is God wants that more than anything. You know, he wants obedience more than he wants a sacrifice. You know, our obedience it's key. You have to have it. I can think of times to where the Lord has given me a word for somebody, and I haven't given it. I kind of kept it in, and I got chastised for that. You know, and it wasn't pretty. And I got a word the other day for somebody, and I doubted. I did. I doubted it because it didn't make sense. You know, it didn't make sense to me what I was telling them. But sometimes it don't make sense, and that's okay, because when I did tell them, you know, they told me that was exactly what I needed. You know, never doubt, and that's what I said. I texted it to her. I said, God told me to send you this. I hope I didn't miss. And she sent back, you didn't miss. Never doubt. And that was faith builder for me. Disobedience has consequences, without a doubt. Take Adam, for example. That's where sin started. That's why we're in the boat we're in now. You know, that got it all started. The consequence was they got kicked out of the garden. I mean, come on now. He was in the Garden of Eden. And everything they could possibly want. Everything. They got kicked out for one act of disobedience. You can move a little further in Genesis, and you can look at Lot's wife. You know, it was simple. She was told, don't look back. That was it. Simple. Don't look back. And what'd she do? She looked back. Pillar of salt, that quick. Instantly. I mean, it was instant. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, that's Old Testament. You know, God's a different God now. God's a God of grace. Well, let's move up into the New Testament, into the book of Acts for a second. Let's talk about Ananias and Sapphira. Jesus has came. Jesus is gone. We're now living under grace. And we all know the story. Ananias lied. Died on the spot. Severe. Not only did it happen once, it happened twice. His wife came in, made the same lie. Instantly. She died. Now, am I saying that if you disobey God, you're instantly going to die? No. I'm not saying that. But we can take these examples and look at them and hope to God that we don't die. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's severe. And that's the God same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That's the God they had. That's the God we have. That's the God our children are going to have. Disobedience isn't good. That's why obedience is better than a sacrifice. Sacrifices were great. They needed them. That's what carried them through. If obedience is better than that, that's huge. Well, at least it is to me. And after this, after you get into all that, we have the key to Christianity, and that's love. Love. And again, that's something I struggle with daily, is loving people. I was the type before I got saved that I absolutely hated people. I didn't like them. They were useless to me. I mean, and I'm just being brutally honest. I mean, that's who I was. And coming to where I'm at now, to where we're charged to love people. You have to love people. That's part of obedience. That's part of faith. You have to love people. Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes it's very tough, but you can look all throughout the Bible. I mean, they question Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? Love God with all your heart. And the second one, love your brother. That's number 2. Right under number 1. And number 1 has to do with love too. You gotta love people. I know it's tough. Believe me. I know it's tough. I know it's tough. There's a popular song out. Rusty, he preached a message over it. I think it was the last time that he preached, and it goes through this whole long thing. That it said, if I speak in tongues with men of angels, but I don't have love, I'm just a sound of a cymbal. You know, you can have all this. You can play the part. You can walk the walk. You can talk it. But in your heart, if you don't have love, you've got nothing. You've got absolutely nothing. You can do all of this for nothing. And that's going to be a bad deal whenever you get to heaven and you hear, sorry, you know, I never knew you. But Lord, I was at the church every time my doors were open. I volunteered. I tithed. I preached. I sang. I played the drums. Yeah, but you didn't have love. That's going to be tough. That's going to be very tough. You can go all through the book of 1 John. It's all about love. I mean, it is all about love. You can't go through any chapter of 1 John without reading something about love. What did Jesus do? He loved them. I mean, look at the woman that was caught in adultery. They came to Jesus with stones in their hands. And what did he tell them? If you're perfect, sure, throw the first rock. He was the only one that was qualified. He loved them. He loved them where they were at. He had dinner with sinners. That was unheard of. I mean, tax collectors. You're talking about the lowest of the low. These people were low. And Christ went and sat down with them. Where does that leave us? Think about that. I'm too good for them. That's not love. That's not love at all. I don't like the way they look. They're not part of the cool kids club. We can't go back there and hang out with them, or we can't talk to them, or we can't love on them because they're not part of us. That's not what Christ is about at all. Christ is the exact opposite of that. Christ is where they're at. I know before I got saved, I attended a church a few times, and I was almost, I don't want to say shunned, but at the same time, for lack of a better term, I was shunned because of who I was. And I remember that. And it took me a long time to get over that. A long time. I was 2.5 years after being saved before I got over that. And that's the truth. That's the truth. And I don't ever want to see my actions be like that. Because had it not been for a praying church that was here, I would have never gotten saved. Had it not been for the wife that I had praying, I would have never gotten saved because I didn't want to be saved. Because I seen that. I seen those people and how they treated me, and I was like, no, I can act like that at home. Matter of fact, I do act that way. I mean, that's the way I acted. And it wasn't good. That's exactly the opposite of what we need as far as love. It's easy to love your kids. It's easy. It's easy to love your friends. Even sinners do that. Love your enemies. That's where it's tough. But that's where we got to get. That's where we have got to be. We have to love the people that we don't like. You have to. I've heard it say, well, I can love them, but I don't have to like them. Not really. If you love them, you don't have to put up with their actions. You don't have to like the sin they're in. But you got to love the soul. You got to love the soul. And if they see a condescending Christian coming towards them, all that's going to do is drive them further and further away. Trust me, I know that's the kind of guy I was. And it wasn't good. And I think back to Jesus now that I'm saved, and now that I am where I'm at, and that's what Christ did. He loved them. And if we think of Christ, Christian means Christ-like. Look at Christ. Christ had faith. Christ obeyed. Christ loved. Where are we at today? Personally, search your heart. Where are you at today? Do you have faith? Do you have obedience? Do you love people? All three of these areas are something that we can all get better at. We're never going to get there. We're never going to get to where we need to be. Otherwise, we'd be Jesus himself. It's not going to happen. But there's always room for improvement. Mass, that's something that you got to take back with you, man. You have to. I've seen a change in your heart that's been amazing. And it's going to absolutely break mine to see it go. But you got a work to do. You've got a work to do. It starts with love. It starts with love. I kind of started this backwards. I had it written down from faith, obedience, and love, but I should have written it the other way. I should have written this starting with love, then obedience, and then moving into faith. But that's where we're at. That's where we're at. God is love. And it is amazing to see the places that I've come from as a Christian to where I was at before I got here, and to know that I know a lot of you. I know a lot of where you come from. Lord, Chastity and I grew up together. There's been a long road. But this is where we're at. We're at faith, obedience, and love. As far as where I'm at, and it's all something that we can improve on. It starts today. For me. The improvement starts today. And I urge it to start for you. Don't be a Pharisee about your religion. I heard Bishop Drake said that the other day in a council. We was at them Equipping for Destiny training, and he said that the other day. He said we don't need to be Pharisees about our religion. And that stuck with me, because Pharisees were stiff-necked, afraid to change. They were stuck in their ways. They knew how it was. They taught the law. They knew exactly how it was. They knew how it had to be. And then Christ came and changed everything. He didn't so much change it, but he fulfilled it. And that's what I like. We don't need to be Pharisees about our religion, and that's something that's going. Then I want to use that. I want to use that because there's a lot of times we can get stuck. Elders of the church, they get stuck. This is the way it has to be. Always room for improvement, and that's what I like. That's what I like. If you would, stand with me, please. If you're here tonight and you see one of these areas that you need to improve on, I urge you to come up here and pray. I urge you to come up here and pray. There's so much that we can work on as a group, as a church. There's so many things. There's so many different levels of all three of these things, of faith, of obedience, of love. There's so much that we need to work on. And I, for one, am going to make a vow to this church today that I'm going to get better at these three things. Now, the ball's in your court. Now it's up to you. This gets on a one-on-one level. This isn't something that Brother Bobby can do for Sister Anita. It's not like that. This is something that you have to do for yourself.